Hi, I'm Alana Hippensteel from Pharmacy Times. Before we get started, one of our top articles today discusses recommendations for limiting interactions with hospitalized patients with COVID-19 and diabetes in light of a recent study that showed that hospitalized patients with COVID-19 and diabetes represent more than 20% of individuals in intensive care units. There's more of that on pharmacytimes.com. Today, I'm speaking with Rich Tremonte, the Executive Vice President and President of Community and Specialty Pharmacy at AmerisourceBergen, on the critical role community pharmacies are playing in helping to expand testing and reduce infections amid reopenings in the country. So Rich, what is your background in working with community pharmacies across the US?
Yes, thank you, Alana. Thanks for having me. I am really excited to be here and talk about what ABC does with pharmacies all the time. And for decades now, AmerisourceBergen has really worked with all pharmacies in the community, whether it's independents or chains. We offer everything, and we're known for pick, pack, and ship. We source all the products, whether they're over the counter, generics, brands. We source all the products. We have an ordering platform that our customers use called ABC Order. And we certainly ship the products every day to their pharmacy, and that goes across the board of all the items I mentioned. In addition, we also support them from a Good Neighbor Pharmacy perspective. So our Good Neighbor Pharmacy Premier members, we actually help them with things like merchandising and planograms and making sure their shelves have the right product in the right place, as well as business coaching. And our Elevate PSAO actually helps our pharmacies negotiate with PBMs for reimbursement. So we try to do everything we can so the pharmacy can focus on the patient. That's really what we're trying to do every day with our pharmacy, and making sure that they can focus on the patient. And we know Good Neighbor Pharmacy has won the J.D. Power Award 9 of the last 10 years for customer satisfaction. So we know the patients that walk into a Good Neighbor Pharmacy are really being cared for and love the experience that they're getting, which just really resonates with everyone at AmerisourceBergen.
Absolutely. What is the role of the community pharmacy during the COVID-19 pandemic specifically?
Sure. Yeah, I think you could see everything they're doing. We know we'll talk a lot about testing, but the role has been they are pillars in their community and continue to be, and the tens of thousands of pharmacists and technicians who continue to stand on the front lines every day. And we talk about how they've adapted, whether it's becoming a closed door pharmacy or delivering more product than they were before to the patients' homes, or really staying on top of those patients that maybe are not being as adherent for whatever reason to their medication. And we saw during this time, many people stopped going to their physician because they were worried to go into that and get infected. And they really continued to call and work with their pharmacist. So the pharmacist was continued to be looked at as someone they can talk to and that they're comfortable with and they have a relationship with. I talked many times about Fearless Pharmacy on the wearegmp.com website, but again, you can go on there and really see the impact pharmacists have had during COVID, and there's really some really great stories there.
Yeah, absolutely. How have recent policies acknowledged the importance of testing at pharmacies?
Yeah, so recent policies and really the big news being that the federal government has authorized pharmacies to administer COVID testing. I mean, that's really the big thing. And we certainly know that they're capable of doing this. And, we continue to provide all the information we can to our pharmacies for COVID and have a spot on our website where they can go find out all this information. And we, from a distribution standpoint, are really monitoring what's going on in terms of testing. So, right now there's 2 tests. There's a molecular test that often involves expensive lab equipment, which isn't realistic for some of our small pharmacies to really partake in. And then there's a serology test. So right now there's been FDA approved testing on the molecular side, and on the serology side, we're waiting for an FDA approval. And we're just not comfortable with the accuracy rates on the products, so we're not selling any of the products today, but we're certainly monitoring the situation and working with our pharmacies to equip them hopefully very, very soon with an FDA approved serology test that they can give out in their setting that they feel really good about, and we feel really good about the results that come from the accuracy of that test.
Right. And how has expanding community pharmacies' ability to test for COVID-19 changed opportunities for rural areas and harder to reach populations? And additionally, do you think this will play a role in reducing infections amid reopenings?
Yes. So rural areas, we continue to know that with hospitals closing, with the lack of physicians in the area, we know through NACDS that many of these rural pharmacies are really the primary points of care within that community. And we know that these pharmacies administering tests and providing care will help prevent the spread of COVID. That's why we continue to work with NACDS and NCPA to make sure we can get these products into the pharmacist's hands who are well equipped to administer these tests. And we're seeing many large pharmacies that are our customers just doing a great job in their communities, Walgreens being one of them, making sure that they're doing all these tests and having people know when within a day if they have COVID or not, and they can handle themselves and put themselves in isolation if need be.
Right, right. Um, why is advocacy for DIR reform and provider status
Yeah.
key to helping many smaller pharmacies survive the pandemic?
It's a great question, Alana. And I think what's happening during this pandemic is everyone's starting to see what most people in healthcare already knew. It, pharmacies are completely able to administer tests and do so many things, but they're underutilized. And we've seen through this that things are opening in terms of getting reimbursement for the services they're providing, and being considered under provider status for Medicare Part B is something we continue to advocate for. And our hope would be not just during COVID, during a pandemic when we've turned to pharmacies to be that front line to do these things that we need, but why not all the time? Why not all the time can a pharmacy continue to be considered under provider status and get reimbursed for all the things that they can do? And frankly, I think COVID has shown we need them to do.
Yeah,
And that just, I think, makes common sense. So we need to continue to petition our national leadership to let them know all these great things that pharmacies can do. And I'm hopeful that that this is a bright spot in this COVID pandemic, that this will come out. Just last month, we sent a letter to Congress with 240 of our allies, really pushing Congress to say, we need DIR fees removed. So when you think about a DIR fee, I mean, it's something that really doesn't happen in many other industries, that at the point of sale, that pharmacist does not know if they're going to be profitable on the item that they're selling. And that really doesn't happen in too many industries. So we are all for the removal of DIR fees, but really anything that is not transparent at the point of sale.
yeah,
So, and generic effective rates, any of these things where a pharmacist doesn't know at the time when they're selling the product if they'll be profitable or not. We just don't believe is fair. So we continue to push to get pharmacies both on provider status and the removal of, we say DIR fees, but it's really any fees at the point of sale.
right, right. What do you think the impact of COVID-19 economic decline is on medication adherence?
Yeah, so something we're always worried about, and if we see, we all see unemployment rising, which concerns us for many reasons, and number one being the health of the population,
Yeah,
because in regardless of COVID, we know when expenses go up, adherence goes down.
yeah,
So as this keeps going up, and we know right now there's less people who are insured, we see the data. It looks like for the most part, chronic medications, people are continuing to get their refills for the most part. But we have seen a drop in acute medications. So whether it's an anti-infective or a pain reliever, a lot of that has to do with what we talked about earlier, where people are not going to their physicians during this time. So there's been a pretty big drop off in those acute drugs. But I believe, we have all this technology, whether it's an app or a text that we can communicate, and pharmacists can communicate with their patients to making sure they're getting the refill and staying within their regimen. But, I also think just being a human and picking up the phone and talking to the patients. And that's why I think a Good Neighbor Pharmacy always gets such high rankings, because they're calling someone they know for years and years and checking on them and just checking on their well-being. And I think that's the way that we'll continue to see adherence pick up, especially during this time when there's so much financial concern.
yeah, absolutely. Um, do you have any concerns about drug shortages as it relates to flu season or a second wave of COVID-19?
Yeah, so where we are today, as I talked about, there was a surge in March of products. Where we are today is most products are in stock and fine. There are products. I talk about albuterol, but there's other products where there's still a shortage. But I think we're working our way through that with the manufacturer. There's also products that are over the counter. So whether it's hand sanitizer or some of the cough and cold items, some of those products are still unavailable or not really as available as they typically are. So we see that recovering by the fall. I think the big question then is, what will flu season look like? And I know the WHO just came out and said they believe there'll be an increase in people going and getting their flu vaccine. I think everyone has a heightened awareness around health right now, and the reality would be that more people will go get a flu vaccine. We know that our independent customers year over year have pre-booked orders for a flu vaccine, but it's about 5 to 10% higher than last year. So we're definitely seeing an increase in demand around that,
Mhm.
and trying to prepare for that. And it looks like the manufacturers will be okay meeting that demand.
Right.
The big question is, the really big question is, will there be another wave of COVID?
Yeah.
And that's something I'm not sure anyone can answer right now. But we are making sure we're working with all of our manufacturer partners to get the product we can for our customers in anticipation of that possibly happening.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today, Rich. Now let's hear from some of our other MJH Life Sciences brands on their latest headlines.